In this video, we want to create a custom city map. As you can see, this is the output, one example that we want to create in a simple yet customizable Python script using some open source libraries such as Folium. Now, the idea here is to have a map such as this. The output would be HTML file, and also you can take a snapshot from that as well. And we have different city type elements, map type elements. You have landmarks, you have route, as you can see, and you have some data as heat map, which you can toggle here and customize and go through them. Right. So let me now move on to the code itself and see what do we have. So again, hopefully this is some simple steps. I go through them and visualize some of the steps, so it's easier to see how to customize them. As you saw in the example, I just chose a city as an example, Portland, and here you can visualize actually where you want your center of the picture, the map be, and how much you want to zoom it. So you can play around with these two global variables, and as you can see, I only use these two. This is just for the heat map, which we need an additional sub function from the Folium, and I use just system just to get the arguments in the end, as you will see. So let's just run this. So we have obviously you need to make sure you install Folio, and that's a simple installation there. This is where we have and again the whole code actually is simple enough. We have a couple of functions to create the data. As you can see, I hard coded. We have few data points here. Obviously, you can also read the data points from CSV as well, which I have a different video in the cards. You see where how we can upgrade this. But essentially, we have a couple of functions for reading the data and a couple of functions for adding those different elements to the layers, and then we build the map. So it's simple enough steps. So let me go through the baseline. So the baseline is just the map itself, what it looks like, where it's centered, and how much you want to zoom it. So there are different ways that you can add the background. So we call it tiles here in Folium. And if you look at the documentation, there are multiple open source available, but also there are some artistic element type tiles that are available as well. I provided three examples that are free to use. The example that you saw was the OpenStreetMap. And the reason I use none and add this tile layer because I wanted to add a customized name for the toggle that you saw. And I'm going to show you how. So if we just copy this and run it here, and then what we're going to do, then we're going to create this map object, right? Now I have the map object. Now I simply save the map object as HTML file, and then I just go ahead and save it as a HTML file. There you go. And then I actually already have it. Let's go what it looks like. So let's go to the browser. This is the test element. So this is the baseline, as you saw. You can play around. There are some options when you can make it lighter, you can make it darker, you can make it, as I said, maybe artistic, add watercolor type, for example, or other different type of um, layer or template to the background, which it may be important to you. So um, that's something to think about, and there are tiles option available. So let's go back to the code itself. Okay, so we have the baseline. Okay, now this is the baseline that we want to create our data on top of that. So first thing we want to add, again, you may want to have this or not, but something that we often have is different points. Let's call it um, points for a route. It's a route or a path for, let's say here I have a tram line and I have a bus route. The information that I want for them is latitude, longitude for the points that I want to guide how the line or route would look like, and the color for that and the name for that, which the name is the one that you see in the toggle um, line, the interactive toggle line that you will see at the end. And that will give me the data for route. Okay, so that's for the route. Let's go to the landmark or just the points. That's perhaps the simplest thing you want to have, you may want to have. Um, and obviously just one thing at the end, when we add this route to the map, we have the option to add an icon, a simple picture to that as well. So we're gonna see how that looks like. So route or simple, again, points on the map. For that, we need, I hard-coded the data. Essentially, we have a dictionary here. We need the name for that, the kind, the type, category, and latitude, longitudes for each elements that we have here. Again, we have a couple of elements here. For heat map, the data that you may want, again, I have the randomization here because I just want to randomize a couple of points. Your data may be specifically exactly, the latitudes. So let me give you one example of the heat map data that you want to have. So heat map essentially are a series of points where you want to have with different intensity, some radiation of a heat map in a radius around it, right? So in this example, I have 60 kind of largish point for my heat map. They are around the center, which is the latitude that I use here, the city center, right? And I use some randomization just to give me different latitude, longitudes, and the waist, that's the important um, argument here. It's usually between 0 and 1, so I have it between the higher half of the range, so the points, and I add it to the point as a list, different items in the list. And then I have 30 other um, points for my heat map. Their weights are smaller, between 0 to half, 0.5, and they are around a specific points that I was interested in. That is in the map. It's around the park in that city, right? So that gives me a list of the points with their weights for my heat map. We're going to see how we add them to the map. Then we actually add, now here we start to add the items to the map actually. So here first we add the routes. So we are creating something called feature group. And this feature group is the creates object where we can add the polyline to that. So polyline is again the subject that I have a simple short video on that, have to create and add a polyline. Often you may want to just focus on that. Here, essentially what it does for us, it takes the route information and extract the information, the location, weight, and everything. And here I have a set weight and opacity here. You can play around to see, it just works with the transparency and the size of the points. So you can customize that as well. And simply the one other thing to add here, it's to add where we want to have the icon. So here, the information that when you toggle your mouse on the route, you want to see what information, the pop-up elements. So here I want to, and on the pop-up element, I want to see the name on the points, and the icon here, I'm clearing, I'm specifying the icon box here, and the color for that icon. So this is the information on the marker, how it looks like in the map. Again, you can play around with customize it to see what it looks like. Once I have added my route, then I'm adding the landmarks or the points on the map. Again, that is going to a loop on the landmark. That was the argument here. That is the list of the points. And I'm adding again simply the pop-up for those points. I want to be the type, let's say, and the name. So I add both the type of information here, and you can add a tooltip here as well. And you add them to the map here with Folium marker, right? And we added here to the map. Lastly, we have the heatmap layer. Now, heatmap layer, again, use the heatmap function that we imported initially. So it looks a little bit different because we imported it from another sub layer from Folium. The heat map data, we read extract it from the point. That is how we had it, weight and latitude, longitude. And then you would have you have a name, perhaps. This is the name for the heat map, the way that you want to be showed up in the toggle layer to have that interaction. And then also for the whole heat map, you have an option to specify what buildable point, the zoom and the radius, the size of it as well. So you can play around to see how that looks like as well. And finally, we add all these different functions that we had in top. This is add, so we create the base, we add the routes and landmarks and the heat map and everything on the map object. And here we add the layer control, which gives us the ability to see what elements we want to be showed up in the final HTML file, which I'm going to show you what it looks like again. And then we just save it. In this example, we save it as a HTML file, and just that's just the name. Now, I just added one more thing here to the code, that if you want to start, perhaps you don't need all the elements to be showed up in your final HTML. Maybe you just want the base, or you want to only the route or landmarks, right? Or heat map, or you want maybe the full. So this is the mode, how what type of elements you want to have. So in here, I think I have a basis as if you don't have any argument. Let's say if you run this build map, and after that you add an argument here as a text, then that mode will be available to read. So you can have the mode here, customize it and run it as an argument to the build map, or you can run the whole Python script with added argument, and you can see what type of function you want. So let me run everything here, and the mode here, because I haven't selected anything, is full. So I want everything, and then we can go back again to the browser, and this is the full elements, right? Again, you can zoom in. This is the city map, the title that you could customize it, and you can add different layers. Hopefully that was something useful that you were looking, and you can customize it the way that you like it. Again, I have a similar an extension to this video where we can read the data that you had here that are hard coded in the code from a CSV file, and the final output you could embed it in another report, let's say a, a sub section in another HTML file. So input and output have to upgrade on that. I have another video where you can find in the description where I extend. See you in the next video.